The Zimbabwe media policy is a groundbreaking framework designed to foster a thriving, diverse, and inclusive media landscape. The policy is a crucial step towards realizing our national vision of becoming an empowered upper middle income society by 2030 as outlined in our national development strategies. Hello and welcome to Economic Forum, where we discuss various issues affecting our economy in Zimbabwe. These can be issues to do with energy sector, with mining, manufacturing, education and health. We discuss them here in order to see how they impact on our economy. My name is John Masugu, and today we are going to be dissecting and analyzing the recently launched media policy in Zimbabwe. And with the pleasure of hosting Nigel Nyamutumbu, who is the coordinator of the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe, which is a group that advocates and lobbies for media laws and reforms and works very closely with the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Information and Broadcasting. Nigel, welcome.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
I remember many years ago I came across this document, Media Policy Framework for Zimbabwe, and that's way back in 2014, I think.
Yes, thereabouts. Between 2012, 2013 to 14, thereabouts.
So
yes.
When His Excellency the President launched this one, I said, could there be any input from you there? Was there anything that you managed to attract into the new policy?
Yes, certainly. The issues that find expression from the policy framework developed by the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe as a grouping of professional journalistic associations and media support organizations who, as part of the reform trajectory of our media sector, having it transformed from just being a sector into an industry and having it operate in an environment that it is able to thrive, to have a legal framework that is supportive to the growth of the sector. So from the period leading to the enactment of the new constitution, we were at the forefront of agitating for a media policy which would underpin any reform and development within the media sector. And yes, in 2025, we now have a media policy with some issues that were relevant a decade ago as they are today.
Yes. Now, what we're discussing here is to see how the media really fits in our economic development. Is media just for entertainment, or it actually fits into the economic value system, in Zimbabwe, so that we know when we are doing media, we're doing business?
No, yes, a key component of media is actually business. Whether you look at it from a perspective of the media being cultural industries, in other words, being a platform for the creatives, be they filmmakers, be they artists, be they news media, in the case of journalists, and how within the particular framework they are able to feed into the gross domestic product if they are become viable. In other developed economies, the media and film industry is actually a major contributor. For Zimbabwe, I think we are at a stage where we are at the crossroads to see where we can really locate the media in terms of its market value. We are still, perhaps lagging behind insofar as really harvesting from our local content producers. We are lagging behind in terms of really innovating around how the media can actually be an industry that creates jobs, can actually be an industry that is viable, that is profitable. And it is noble that one of the key strategic pillars of the media policy, as was launched by President Mnangagwa, is that of economic sustainability. I think all of the other strategic pillars within that media policy are hinged on the need to have a sustainable media, to have local content production invested in having community broadcasting strengthened, in having the whole value chain of the media from the input side of it to the output side of it really enhanced to an extent that we've got a quality media that is able to also contribute towards the country's GDP.
You keep on referring to the media as the policy does. What is it that we call the media? Because so many other aspects have emerged, and at times there's conflict between journalists, social media, users, as well as content creators. Let's set the record straight.
Yes, I think what is pertinent, and if, one of our submissions towards the policy framework was to really underpin the distinction between what would be professional media or professional news media vis-a-vis what would just be a free marketplace of ideas where people can just actively engage, be it on social media, not so much for business, not so much for producing news, because news by its nature, it is information that is used and derived from credible sources. So the policy does make an attempt in addressing that by, number one, looking at digital transformation as a standalone strategic pillar, to say how can these news media platforms be relevant at a time that we have new media technologies, at a time that there are new tools of engagement, including emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence. That is one component. On the other hand, it looks at media sovereignty and regulation as one of the strategic pillars. And in so doing, it then now tries to set apart those that are doing media professionally. Because the currency of media, what we sell, the service that we produce, is credibility. Is to say we are selling information that has been verified, information that has been researched, information that is reliable.
Nigel Nyamutumbu is the coordinator of the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe and broadly a media practitioner, and we're discussing the media policy which was recently launched by His Excellency the President of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa. So join us in the second segment of Economic Forum. The media is very important in the economic value system, and that's what we've learned from Nigel Nyamutumbu, who is our guest today on Economic Forum, where we are dissecting or analyzing the recently launched media policy to see how it can help in the economic development of the country. Now, let's look at issues to do with sustainability as well as innovation. I know those are some of your headaches because some of your newspapers, broadcasting stations, and other entities are struggling, financially. Let's look into that.
Yes, I think one critical element that we need to be cognizant of is it is no longer business as usual in terms of media. I think back in the day, where the media would find its revenues were easy to place. In the case of print media, it was by and large your newspaper sales, and adverts. But in this day and age, where people can now access, their news and information at the tip of their hands, through their cell phones, and there is a whole lot more of avenues of accessing than having to go to the street corner or having the paper delivered to you, as was the case back in the day. There was a period when we would wait anxiously for the news bulletin at 8 for us to then really access news on television. Now it's a rolling thing. It is happening almost as it happens. People are already engaged with the news and with the information. So what that means now is we now need to rethink our revenue streams. We can no longer talk about ordinary copy sales, but perhaps we can now begin to talk about how we can monetize our online platforms. How, whether if we are going to use paywalls, or whether we are going to try and encourage philanthropic type of journalism, where you crowdfund and so forth, or whether you also now begin to have the media in itself not just waiting to sell news and information, but being diverse in their resource mobilization. So we are beginning to see news media, and this is a trend that is happening globally, adopting new revenue streams. We've got news media taking leadership in economic forums, taking leadership in climate, agriculture, resilience, and them, providing research, well-packaged content, and leveraging from the various facets of the economy than to just wait for news and information. So it is a rolling theme within the media policy of diversification. Where else can the media locate itself? But itself, the media, has to also be in a position to be in touch with its audiences. Because when you talk to investors, when you talk to advertisers and marketers, it's a numbers game. Who do you have? Right now, they are persuaded more by influencers who, by their very nature, perhaps given their content, there is no line of command, there is no, a gatekeeping, a lot, and so forth. And, it is just possibly a person and their phone, and they transmit and, be able to attract as many audiences. And advertisers are a lot more now engaging with those. They are more affordable and so forth. But where do we now relocate our audiences? Because the demand for quality information, the demand for information that is researched, the demand for information that is well packaged in a manner that makes people make informed decisions is still there. And we need to tap into that to remain not only relevant, but to actually get back into business.
You mentioned a very important point about understanding audiences, and there have been, different schools of thoughts about our audience research. Now, in the light of what you have said, do you think that our audience research has to be changed and done differently?
Yes, it has to be rethought. There needs to be that rethinking. And one critique that I actually have of the media policy is the inconsistencies. Because what we should have done as a country was to start with having the media policy, and then the law reforms would then follow what we aspire at a policy level. So to give an example, in terms of the broadcasting sector, where the law, as it were, and the recently amended Broadcasting Services Act prohibits external funding and so forth, foreign direct investment into the media. Yet, realistically, when you now look at how Zimbabwe's audiences are configured. We've got a majority of our citizenry in the diaspora. That is a market on its own. So a law that was relevant in 2001 insofar as safeguarding our industry from influence foreign, of what would be foreign powers or foreign investors, has now to be rethought, because we no longer just have foreigners in the foreign lands. We also have locals, and it is something that the policy itself speaks of, to say we want to, as much as possible, attract diaspora funding into our community radios. The policy is a great start, but what we now also need to do is to follow up some of the laws that are there, to see if they still resonate and relate with the current realities.
That's Nigel Nyamutumbu, who is a media practitioner and is helping to analyze the new media policy. So join us in the third and final segment of Economic Forum. We are now in the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing the media policy that was recently launched in Zimbabwe. And our guest here, Nigel Nyamutumbu, who is a media practitioner, has sort of opened up, is made it clear what some of the issues, the strategic issues, were really brought by that media policy and how we can utilize them. Nigel, earlier on we talked about sustainability and innovation. In the innovation hubs that we are seeing from tertiary institutions, are we also having something being innovated with regards to the media, and what is it?
Yes, I think one area that really needs to be invested into our media space is that of local content production. I think for Zimbabwe, and this is multifaceted, because on one hand, there is the issue around the promotion of our 16 officially recognized languages. There is an unfettered opportunity for us to actually embrace and package our culture to an extent that we will be able to actually export our culture across the world. But it begins by a deliberate investment process. Into our local hubs. I think one of the issues that has been for long curtailing has been non-payment, say, of those that produce. There's been some minimal investment towards those that are in the film creative industry. There's been minimum investment even in terms of news production itself. I think in the region we are one of the few countries that are really yet to go full throttle in having a news-based channel that runs throughout, really digs deep into our current affairs, our economic affairs, the entire policy framework, politics, and all of that. And there is that scope through now this media policy to then say, let us invest, because for you to get money out of something, there ought to be some investment. So the policy in it wanting to establish a fund. Yes, there's been a fund that has been established through the Zimbabwe Media Commission Act. It was a fund that was obtained in the Access to Information and Protection of Privates Act, AIPA, but now it is vested still in the Zimbabwe Media Commission. There is need now to expand on that, to then say, how do we make this cake bigger? How do we incentivize those that are in the colleges to pursue journalism, to pursue the creative sector, to an extent that if Nigeria, as an example, could have Nollywood.
Nollywood, yes.
Yes, what can perhaps stop us from having a Hollywood or anything of that sort that could ensure that we begin to retain something and we begin to export our cultural industries. We begin to export and really place Zimbabwe, small as we are, but have a stake within the SADC region, Africa, and indeed the world.
But when we are there, Nigel, very good point. The ball is in your court. You are actually an alliance of all the media houses, media practitioners. Are you doing anything to link with these hubs?
Yes, it's a process. It's really a start that we have begun to establish. It's good, like I said, that for a decade we've been advocating for a media policy for the country. It is now there. Now let us begin to engage with it. I think everything that now has to be implemented in respect and regards to this policy has to be from a multi-stakeholder approach to then say, where is research? Where is the room and space for research? Where is the room and space to realign and rethink our laws, as it were? Because we've got the Cyber and Data Protection Act as an example. We've got the Freedom of Information Act. We've got the Broadcasting Services Act as recently amended. We've got the Zimbabwe Media Commission Act. We've got a Media Practitioners Bill whose principles have been adopted by Cabinet. How can all these laws, speak to this one particular aspiration? Because in having a multi-stakeholder approach, you also embrace convergence. How do we begin now to connect the dots? There's the empirical need to connect the dots insofar as all these stakeholders that are operating within this very same media ecosystem. How do we converge them to an extent that there is room, including of academia, including of innovation hubs, and how artificial intelligence, as an example, can be embraced to maximum audience engagement, to understanding the audience in real time, and to ensure that there is a relationship that exists between the market, the media, and the audience that it serves.
Very eye-opening, Nigel. Thank you very much for coming on to Economic Forum. That's Nigel Nyamutumbu, the coordinator of the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe, who has been analyzing the media policy that was recently launched by His Excellency, the President of Zimbabwe, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa. There is actually business in the media, so it is our task as media practitioners to ensure that we make use of this media policy to the best of our advantage. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do so on the numbers that are showing on your screen. If you'd like to engage with us and people like Nigel Nyamutumbu here, you can do that on our social media platforms that again are showing on our screens. If you have missed some of the episodes of Economic Forum, you can watch them on our YouTube channel, which is Economic Forum Zimbabwe. So on behalf of Nigel Nyamutumbu and the Economic Forum production team, this is John Masugu wishing you happy viewing.